Holyoke Public School System, what is up? I want to welcome you to this new school year with open arms and a big old hug and all of this crazy energy. Thank you to the new superintendent of the Holyoke Public School System, Anthony Soto, for allowing me this brief moment to share my heart with all of you. So I must admit, I'm excited and equally nervous for all of you. And here's why. We're living in some very different times. From the pandemic to the losses to the moments of depression to the overthinking that has led to so much anxiety to the feelings of being overwhelmed, the feelings of scarcity of not knowing what's going to take place and what's happening next. Just think about that from an adult's perspective. Now imagine what that looks like from a student. All of the changes that they're encountering, all of the discomforts of their physical changes, all of the pressures from their social media platforms, all of the things that they're experiencing within their own household to the remote learning that they've never experienced before. There's just a lot. And these are the students that you guys are going to be teaching and encountering this year. So I want to get your mindset exactly where it needs to be so that you can go into this school year with just the right approach, the right energy, the right intensity, the right motivation, the right inspiration, whatever you want to translate that as. In order for you to really have the proper energy, you must think to yourself, you know what, why is it that I'm doing what I'm doing? Is this teaching thing really for me? Do you realize the role that you guys play? For some of you, you may just see yourself as a teacher, but for a lot of you, you guys are being seen as aunts and uncles, grandmothers and grandfathers, mothers and fathers, friends. You have to really put yourself in the shoes of these children, your students. How are they translating the relationship with you? For a lot of your students, you guys are the most safe and consistent thing that they've ever experienced. You guys are the greatest influencers that they will probably ever gonna come across. Your role is astronomical, and I know that you signed up to be a teacher, but there's just so much more. You're shaping a human's reality. You're giving a human being these elements of education, this element of consistency, this element of safety, these elements of a future and a vision. Wow. When I say you guys are the real MVPs of the community, you guys are the real MVPs of the community. So again, in order for us to really be effective toward the students that you're working with, I'm going to talk to you guys about 3 principles. But the very first one that I didn't even mention up here, because it's a priority, is the ability to put yourself in your students' shoes. Who did you need as a child? Who did you need as a child back then, let alone right now with these unpredictable times that we're living in? These are the situations and challenges and adversities that you guys are going to be encountering. These are the anxieties and the overthinking and the thoughts and the emotions that you guys are going to be combating day in and day out from yourself, let alone your students. So I want to talk to you guys about the first principle. In order for you to be an effective teacher, an effective educator, you must first be effective towards yourself. We often wear the Superman cape to everybody's life, but we forget who. We forget the person in the mirror. So of course it's going to be easy to get burnt out. Of course it's going to be easy to be overwhelmed. Of course you're going to want to give up at times because you're not taking the steps and practicing the habits that are giving you that sense of peace, that sense of harmony, that sense of I'm actually doing and taking care of me. We often think that taking care of ourselves is selfish, right? Because we're not used to it. We're used to seeing other people take care of everybody else but themselves. So it's a habit that we've learned as children. But the reality is, how can you be the most effective you if you're not even thinking about you? So now if I'm thinking about me, if I'm taking care of my well-being, if I'm taking care of my thoughts, if I'm protecting my emotions, if I'm taking care of my physical well-being, I'm exercising, I'm implementing all of these positive habits, guess what? Every time I step into a classroom, I'm going into that classroom the best possible version of myself. Man, this is powerful, and I need you guys to make it an absolute must must to apply this first principle right now. Think about how long you've neglected yourself. Think about how much you've put everybody else's life before yours, and how far has that gotten you. So again, to be an effective educator, you must first be effective towards yourself. The second thing is you must be passionate about what you do. When you truly love what you do, when you're truly engaged, when you really have a passion for what you're doing day in and day out, you're going to approach things differently. We can't approach this teaching thing as a paycheck. We can't approach it as just a career. We have to approach it as a passion, because we know teachers don't get compensated enough, let alone appreciated enough. What you guys do day in and day out, the job that you signed up for and the job that you actually replicate is a lot of times very differently, right? Because you guys have to go the extra miles, and there's so much time that takes place before school, after school, while actually while you're in school. There's a lot of time in your life that you're giving up to be in these children's life, your students. So if this is something that you're really doing, just ask yourself, why am I doing this? Do I really love teaching? Is this something that I'm truly passionate and obsessed with? Because if you are, you're going to approach things very differently. We're talking about a life. We're talking about a future. We're talking about a child that's depending on you to educate them to the best of your ability. All I ask is you don't waste their time nor your time. And I say that with all due respect, because the turnover ratio in schools is unbelievable. Especially now with students being a little bit more challenging, times being a little bit more challenging, it's getting harder than ever. So I need you to be all in. I need you to really be all in. The last principle, the third principle, that I want to talk to you about, you must understand human needs. We have 6 human needs. We got the need to be certain, the need to be uncertain. We got the need to be loved and the need to feel significance. We got the need to grow and the need to contribute. And where you guys are going to really focus on the most are these 2. Really think about how many of your students lack these 2 human needs. Some of them, they could be living in an environment where their parents or their parent is just too busy trying to give them a decent upbringing, and they're just working. For some of them, their own parents never received this. So how can they possibly give something that they've never received? This is what I'm saying, you guys. What you guys do is unbelievable. You guys can fill these 2 human needs, and the love doesn't have to necessarily be the affection aspect of it. It can just be the approach, the energy, the consistency, and just the respect and the value that you have for the student that you're working with. The significance. Let's be honest here, guys. Let's be honest here. Who doesn't want to feel important? And the crazy thing about it is that you're going to deal with students that are going to be willing to go the extra mile as far as punching another student in the face. You're going to be dealing with students that are going to go the extra mile and swear up a storm and be obnoxious and be disrespectful. You're going to see students that are going to do something as different as being stuck in a corner, isolated, completely alone. And all in all, what they're telling you with that behavior is that they're craving this. They're craving that level of significance, that certain level of importance that they're not getting at home. So before we consequence the behavior, before we try to judge what they're doing, really understand a lot of times there's a different intention. We look at the behavior and we think about the intention. And when you think about the intention, it's going to allow you to understand the behavior in full effect. Your student are going to tell you a lot with their behavior. And this is why your approach has to be very different. And for your approach to be different, for you to be effective, you have to make sure that you develop rapport with your students. And the fastest way to develop rapport with your students is by caring. Really caring for them. I mean, really, really caring for them. I couldn't tell you how many teachers have been the difference between life and death for a student. How many teachers haven't been the difference between success and failure for a student? This is the role that you guys are playing. So again, let's recap. For you to be effective towards your students, you must first be able to put yourself in their shoes. Really think about what they're going through from an emotional standpoint, a mental standpoint, and a literal standpoint, meaning what they're going through in their living environment. After that, we're going to really think about how we're going to be effective towards ourselves and our own well-being. so that we can be the best version of ourselves and affect our students to the best of our ability, because we're bringing the best us every single day to that classroom. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to make sure that if we're a teacher and we're putting ourselves in this predicament, we're going to these classrooms to work with these students, that we are passionate about what we're doing. This is not just a job. This is not just a career. This is something that you're truly obsessed about, because you just love to be able to impact a student from the teacher's aspect. The last and final thing is we're going to understand the human needs that your kids are going to be craving the most, which is the need to feel love and the need to feel significance. Once you're able to apply these three principles, and you're able to apply the ability to be effective towards yourself, because it's an ability, right? We all know it, but the ability to do it is super, super different, right? How many times haven't you been in a position where you can give the best advice? You can give the best advice to your family, to your friends, to your students, but you don't apply that advice to your life. Take care of you, and I promise you, your approach, your experiences, and your time with your students is going to be something that you would have never imagined nor predicted. I'm excited for this school year. As like I said, I'm nervous because you guys are going to be dealing with students that have picked up habits before this whole pandemic took place. You guys are going to be dealing with students that have been really struggling mentally and emotionally. But if anybody can do it, is you. I know that you're there for a reason. I know that you signed up for this for a cause, and that cause is going to be greater than you can ever imagine. I appreciate you from the bottom of my heart. Thank you for being an educator. Thank you for being an influencer, and thank you for caring for our future.